Maum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschati Dasatani. So we're going to continue speaking about Lord Rama. Yesterday we were focusing on the great Ravana, whose name means one who causes others to cry. And we're going to continue talking about Ravana because there's many things we learn from Ravana. And just like in Shastra, we hear about the activities of great devotees. And sometimes the activities of great devotees are so amazing. Excuse me. Sometimes the activities of devotees are so amazing and so transcendental that when we look at those activities, we think, I can never be that way. They're so pure, and I'm so impure, that sometimes we can't relate to their purity, and we think, I could never be that way. But when we hear about the activities of the asuras, their horrible, horrible activities, then we can think, well, at least I could try not to be that bad, and I definitely could not be that bad. So in a sense, it's easier to get inspired or get an example from a bad action, because then we can think, well, that's something I could avoid, as opposed to an action which is so pure where we think, I could never do that. So it's like, it almost seems in our conditioned state out of the reach to emulate the activities of the pure devotees. But to look at the activities of the non-devotees in their worst state, like Ravana, for example, we can think, well, at least I could not do that. So that's why we were talking about Ravana, because we were looking at his bad qualities, and we were trying to learn from his mistakes rather than make the same mistakes ourselves. We could learn from the mistakes of others. So that was the idea. So yesterday we had discussed some of Ravana's bad qualities, one of which was that he didn't listen to good advice. And I just came across a story today that I find I wanted to describe to you about Ravana not listening to Shiva. So what happened was, Ravana thought he was like the toughest, most courageous, and most powerful person, and he thought he was undefeatable. And his armies were defeated. They were all killed. And he was the only one left, and he was still so stubborn. He didn't get it. Okay. Lord Ramachandra, somehow or other, with his soldiers, monkey soldiers, Vanaras, those who live in the forest, who were using as weapons stones and trees, not arrows or brahmastras or mystic snakes, as Indrajit had a mystic stake that he would use. They had, Ravana's people, his soldiers, had all kinds of advanced weapons, and the Vanaras had trees and rocks and sticks, and they defeated all his soldiers. So Ravana didn't get it. It's like, this doesn't look good. It doesn't look like I can win. Everyone's killed. And what happened was, so many monkey soldiers were killed. But when Hanuman brought the Sanjeevani medicine to cure Lakshman, to bring him back to life, so to speak, bring him back to life, what it did was it brought all the monkey soldiers back to life. So all the monkey soldiers who were killed, when Hanuman brought this mountain, the mountain had this plant, and just by being near the plant, it would revive a dead person. And it could have revived all of Ravana's soldiers, but I believe it was Bibhishan said, let's take all of the dead soldiers, put them in the ocean, because otherwise they'll be revived when this mountain comes down. So they didn't get revived. So here you have all these soldiers revived. Only Ravana, he's the only one left, right? And then he fights with Ram. And on one day, Ram destroys his chariot driver, horses or elephants, whatever. He destroys everything. Destroys Ravana's weapons. Ravana's ready to be killed. And then Ram says, why don't we meet tomorrow? I'll let you go now. Which was a total embarrassment for Kshatriya, because basically Ram had killed him, but he's letting him go. So in that battle, you may have heard, or you may know, that according to Kshatriya codes, battles did not go on in the evening. They went from sunrise to sunset. But this battle was going on 24/7. And the demons, they become stronger at night. So they were, so it was difficult. In any case, Lord Ram could have killed him, everything finished, and he said, let's resume later. Tomorrow we'll talk about this situation. And you can think about giving Sita back. And if you give Sita back, I will revive all your soldiers, you'll have them all, and we'll put your kingdom back in order and everything, and we'll be friends, and everything will be as it was before. So that's a pretty good proposal. You've lost all your soldiers, you've lost everything. What do you think Ravana did? Well, you know the story. Now, how stupid is Ravana? He's offered, there's no way he can kill Ram, although he wants to kill Ram. And if he just gives back Sita, all his soldiers will come back to life, and he will not be killed. He doesn't have to gamble with his life, and he'll have his kingdom, and Ramachandra will forgive him, and they'll just go into the future in their lives as if nothing at all had happened, no bad feelings or anything. Now, one would think that at this point, when you've lost everything, you would say, okay, I will surrender. But Ravana was too proud to surrender. And he was too attached to Sita, that he was willing to risk his life, and he already had risked the whole kingdom to keep Sita. And he had been completely embarrassed because Ram did not kill him. He spared him. So that was an embarrassment. You're stripped of everything. It was like, imagine a boxing match, and some person's winning, and he could knock out the other person, and he doesn't do it. He goes, no, I'm not going to knock you out. I'll give you a chance to fight back. That's like embarrassing. Like he reduces his fighting just to give the other person a chance. How embarrassing would that be? Where the other person could have won easily, but he doesn't. He doesn't win. He just plays around. So Ravana is totally embarrassed, and he worships Lord Shiva. So he goes to Lord Shiva and he says, I need your help. He said, help in what? What does it say here? I have it written down. Hold on. He says, I need your help. He said, I need your help. I need you to save me. He goes to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva says, okay, I can save you. He says, and what that meant was that Ravana wanted Lord Shiva to fight Rama and defeat him. And Shiva said, I can't defeat Rama. That's not possible. He said, but I can save your life. He said, okay, how will you save my life? He said, give Sita back to Rama. That will save your life. He said, no. You're supposed to, fight for me. You're supposed to protect me. He says, I am protecting you. Give Sita back to Ram. You'll be protected. He said, no. I can't do that. No, well, you're going to be killed and destroyed. No, I can't give Sita back. Well, that's how I will save you. So yesterday we had spoken about how the demoniac mentality is that, or the demoniac mentality, the mentality, as Chanakya Pandit says, of a fool, is that when you give them good advice, they can't hear it. And we had been talking about how when one is very attached, he or she only wants to hear advice which empowers them to get what they're attached to. They don't want to hear any advice which says, you shouldn't be attached to this. Right? So now he's being told, give back the very thing that you're so attached to, which is Sita. Give back Sita. But he's so attached to Sita, he's willing to sacrifice his life, and he's already sacrificed his kingdom. So I think this is the culmination of his stupidity. And even Lord Shiva is telling him, I can't defeat Ram, and you're going to go back and try to defeat Ram so that you can have Sita. So that doesn't make any sense. So we had talked yesterday about losing intelligence. Well, look at this example. This is like Ravana is supposed to be a smart guy, and he is a smart guy. He had written a Shastra on astrology. He had written a Shastra on Ayurvedic medicine. He was a maestro of the Veena. He was an expert manager. He was a smart guy. But as I've often said, there are a lot of very intelligent fools in this world. And Ravana is exhibiting the great foolishness, although materially he's intelligent, but he's exhibiting great foolishness. So this shows us that if we become attached to something which is not good for us, then we can become extremely foolish. So Ravana is teaching us, don't be a fool. Don't become attached to something that's destructive and become so attached that you can't listen to good advice, even from Lord Shiva. I mean, if you can't listen to Lord Shiva, who can you listen to? And even at this point where Lord Shiva is saying, you're fighting Rama and I can't kill Rama, and I'm stronger than you, and you think you can kill him? You're that stupid? And basically Ravana is saying, yes, I am that stupid. I want Sita. Well, there's a reason that Ravana was failing, and I think you know the reason. I want to read you something. More lessons to learn. Hare Krishna. Yes. This is from the 9th canto, 10th chapter, text 27. No, let's start with text 26. These are the wives of Ravana after he was killed by Lord Rama. They knew he was a fool also. O my Lord, O Master, you epitomized trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we are also defeated, for without you the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will we go for shelter? Ravana's wife Mandodari and the other wives knew how cruel Ravana was. The very word Ravana means one who causes crime for others. Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, but when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Lord Rama. Next verse. O greatly fortunate one, you came under the influence of lusty desires, and therefore you could not understand the influence of Mother Sita. Now, because of her curse, you have been reduced to this state, having been killed by Lord Ramchandra. She cursed him when he was stealing her or trying to steal her, he said, I curse you, this will be your death if you touch me. So it is said that, the power of a chaste woman is that her word becomes true and that she can actually curse someone. Her shakti is comes from her chastity. Like a man who is a brahmachari, he has power. A woman's chastity to her husband, or if she's not married, her chastity and her devotion to Guru and Krishna, that's her power. So Sita told him, if you take me, this will be your ruin. You will be destroyed. Your kingdom will be destroyed. And so it was because of his offense to Sita that he lost everything. Purport. This is 9:10:27. Purport. Not only was Mother Sita powerful, but any woman who follows in the footsteps of Mother Sita can also become similarly powerful. There are many instances of this in the history of Vedic literature. Whenever we find a description of ideal chaste woman, Mother Sita is among them. Mandodari, the wife of Ravana, was also very chaste. Similarly, Draupadi was one of the 5 exalted chaste women. As a man must follow great personalities like Brahma and Narada, a woman must follow the path of such ideal women as Sita, Mandodari, and Draupadi. By staying chaste and faithful to her husband, a woman enriches herself with supernatural power. So this is a very important point, that sense control in the form of chastity is empowering. And it's you could say it's kind of an austerity, because to stay with one man is not always easy, or to stay with one woman is not always easy, because we don't always get along so well. But these chaste women weren't looking at marriage in terms of how they would be happy, but it was a much broader context. And chastity was one of the most important attributes within the marriage. And Prabhupada said chastity is the greatest quality of a woman is her chastity. So we see here how chastity had made them extremely powerful. And then Prabhupada is saying that there are many chaste women, Mandodari, Ravana's wife, Sita Devi, Draupadi, and others. And these are meant to be examples for women. In our lives, as men or women, we have the tendency to be whimsical, we have the tendency to be distracted by sense gratification, and being chaste husbands or wives has become a huge challenge in Kali Yuga. And so these examples are very important, especially for women. Prabhupada said something which I tried to qualify, and I got chastised for qualifying it. He said that when there's divorce, it's usually the woman's fault. And I said, well, if that's true, then the men should be a bit sensitive to the women, knowing that they're weaker. And they have this tendency to find difficulty unless the situation is ideal. People said, oh, you're contradicting Prabhupada. But we can see that chastity to a husband is difficult. And we see how this principle of chastity is given such a high pedestal for women in traditional Vedic culture. And Prabhupada said, yes, it's one of the greatest qualities of a woman. And then we see here, which is so interesting, because of the chastity of Sita, she had so much Shakti that whatever she said would happen. Now, in another place, I want to find this other statement by Prabhupada. I don't know if I can find it. Yeah. This is 9:10:20. Angada and the other commanders of the soldiers of Ramchandra faced the elephants, infantry, horses, and chariots, and hurled against them big trees, mountain peaks, clubs, and arrows. Thus the soldiers of Lord Ramchandra killed Ravana's soldiers, who lost all good fortune because Ravana had been condemned by the anger of Mother Sita. So this is really interesting. Listen to what Prabhupada says. Basically, Prabhupada's saying, from the material point of view, The monkey soldiers had no chance. But the reason they won is because Ravana and his people had been condemned by Sita. Isn't that interesting? It wasn't even a question of looking at it from an objective material perspective in terms of abilities. Who's got more firepower? Who's got a better army? Not like that at all. But who has got Shakti, transcendental Shakti, and who doesn't? And who has been condemned by Sita and who isn't? And that was a factor. Just like, I don't know if you're aware of this, Prabhupada said that the reason America is successful and powerful is because it has a history of helping poor countries, giving charity. And he said, because of that, just as a person becomes powerful or wealthy because they give charity, a country becomes powerful and wealthy because they give charity. And that's why America became successful. Now, if a country is demoniac and it harms people, or it's in any way, or specifically creates problems for devotees, it loses its piety. Isn't that interesting? So countries have karma. Yes. So let's read the purport. The soldiers Lord Ramchandra recruited in the jungle were all monkeys and did not have proper equipment with which to fight the soldiers of Ravana. For Ravana's soldiers were equipped with weapons of modern warfare. Modern warfare. Isn't that interesting? How long ago did this happen? Wasn't this Satyuga? But they had the modern weapons of Satyuga. They had the technological advances of Satyuga, which there were many. Anyway, it's funny that Prabhupada uses the word modern. We're talking about Satyuga. So, yes, so they had modern weapons, which means brahmastras and, all kinds of interesting weapons that were, let's say, sophisticated. Whereas the monkeys could only throw stones, mountain peaks, and trees. Wow. Could you imagine? We're going into Iraq and all we have is big rocks, mountain peaks that strong people could pick up. And what else? What did it say? Stones, mountain peaks, and trees. That's all we have. And we're going into Iraq. And we have trees and stones. And the strong ones are bringing mountain peaks, and we're going to fight. We're going to take over the country. We're going to take over Afghanistan and establish democracy in Afghanistan. Well, what are your weapons? Stones, trees, and mountain peaks. Good luck. It was only Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman who shot some arrows, but because the soldiers of Ravana were condemned by the curse of Mother Sita, the monkeys were able to kill them simply by throwing stones and trees. Wow. Listen to this. This is so important. There are two kinds of strength, Daiva and Purushakara. Daiva refers to the strength achieved from the transcendence, and Purushakara refers to the strength organized by one's own intelligence and power. Transcendental power is always superior to the power of the materialist. Depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one must fight one's enemies even though one may not be equipped with modern weapons. Therefore, Krishna instructed Arjuna, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. Think of me and fight. We should fight our enemy to the best of our ability, but for victory, we must depend on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, what Prabhupada is explaining here, you have two kinds of power, which is the material and the transcendental. Lord Ramachandra's army obviously had the transcendental power, and Ravana, his army, was destroyed because they had offended the soldiers of Ram. Because Ravana had offended Sita, and when you offended, and the Prabhupada elsewhere says, if you offend any devotee, It's there in Shastra. You can lose all your opulence, your duration of life, your health, everything you can lose by offending a devotee. So basically Ravana was already condemned. So he was condemned to lose everything because he offended Sita. So even he was fighting monkey soldiers, he couldn't even defeat them because he was already defeated. So material power, he had it all, but it didn't work because he was defeated because of his offense. Isn't that interesting? It is. Very interesting. Now, I read something else. Amazing. Amazing. In the story of Dhruva Maharaj, which I suggest you read because there is so much in there. It's just amazing. I read it on the plane. I read the whole chapter on the plane coming back to the U.S. from Australia. It's a 13-hour flight, so there's a lot of time to read. And I read that chapter. That was the most amazing chapter, the whole story of Dhruva Maharaj. Now, you may remember in that story, Dhruva was doing austerity where he was only eating like leaves every 3 days and only taking a breath every 6 days. Something, I forget the exact thing. But he had completely gone into samadhi, so Krishna was within him. So it is said he was carrying the whole weight of the universe within him because Krishna was within him. And when he stopped breathing, everyone in the universe was choking. And then he was standing on one leg, and he had the whole weight of the universe, and it was pushing the universe. It was putting actually a crack in the planet. Whoa. You have so much weight in you because Krishna's within you that it's pushing the earth. And the earth is cracking. So Prabhupada said something amazing. He said, when a pure devotee is on this planet, he has Krishna completely within him. And he has that weight, and because of that weight of the pure devotee, that one pure devotee could purify the entire planet. Just because Krishna is within him, and what's coming out of him by his presence could purify the whole planet. Think about that, especially in terms of all the effort we make to spread Krishna consciousness and all the strategies we have and the practical things that we do. And now here, not that we shouldn't do those things, and not that they're not necessary, and not that we shouldn't be strategic and sensitive to how people think and establish preaching according to time, place, and circumstance. Definitely we should. But Prabhupada here is saying that one pure devotee, by his power, the whole world could become Krishna conscious. That's also a strategy. Like, become a pure devotee, you'll have Krishna within you, and Krishna will then emanate out of you and purify the whole world. If someone is that advanced, the whole world could become Krishna conscious. That's a heavy thing to meditate on. The heavy was a pun. That is an interesting concept, that if I or you or any of us were completely Krishna conscious, just our presence on this planet could completely change the way people think and how things are happening. Have you noticed, you must have noticed, how there's so many people who are not devotees, but they have a devotional way of thinking. You've probably even noticed some of them sometimes have more of a devotional way of thinking than we do. Like, something's backwards here. Like, wait a minute. You hear somebody speaking and say, wait a minute, aren't we supposed to be saying that? And he's become super popular for saying something that we say, or maybe we forgot to say, or we're supposed to say it and we're not saying it. You see these things happening, like just apparently ordinary people, and they're talking about what appears to be something very devotional, but they're applying it in a practical sense of how to make things better in this world, or become a better person, or make a company better, or make a country better. It's very interesting. So Prabhupada was asked about this, and he said it's because of our influence. It's affecting the planet. People are thinking differently. Even though I didn't talk to this person, but I affected someone who affected someone who affected someone, or he heard a kirtan, or his friend got a book and gave it to him, or told, it's going around, something's happening. So the real preaching technique is become a pure devotee. It'll have the greatest effect. And even though you say the same thing that you're saying now, when you say it as a pure devotee, it'll be 1,000 times more powerful. It'll actually hit people on the heart and change them. Have you ever been in a situation where you've explained Krishna consciousness and you do a really good job, and you really feel that you hit the bullseye, and then people just go away and like blah, like nothing happened? Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if you could just show up and people's hearts would melt? That would be pretty nice. You don't even have to say anything. You just show up and do some pranams, a little smile, and everyone's now a pure devotee. But that would be pretty good. Well, that's basically what it was like when Prabhupada was here. Just as a side point, this morning during japa at the temple, I counted 21 or 22 devotees. Well, I counted in the temple. There may be some outside. I counted 21 devotees in Alachua chanting japa. 14 of those devotees were Prabhupada disciples. So why am I saying that? Well, there are many things we can gather from that. Obviously, we gather the importance of sadhana, that it's mostly Prabhupada disciples. But another thought came to my mind is, what about the next generation? If most of the people that have good sadhana, that get up early, are Prabhupada disciples, what does that say for the next generation? That's a concern. But what does it say for this generation? Prabhupada showed up, we saw him, and boom, it went in our heart really deeply. The things that Prabhupada said, they seem to have gone more deeply in our hearts than the hearts of many of the successive, not many generations, but the successive, you have one or two generations, the successive generations. So we have Prabhupada's words, you can hear them, you can read them, you can hear them from devotees. But those of us who were fortunate enough to hear them from the lotus mouth of Srila Prabhupada, and although we do say there's no difference between his books, and yeah, that's true, it may take a lot of purification before we finally get to that stage where we realize that. But the fact that we were fortunate enough to hear from Prabhupada, and many of you see this and said the disciples of Prabhupada, they have like some special quality. They're really moved in a special way. That's because Prabhupada was a pure devotee and his words had Shakti, and a pure devotee can do amazing things. You can't just go to New York in 1966 and start a movement by yourself. That's not something any Vaishnava could do. Definitely not. But Prabhupada's presence was just infecting people's hearts. People were changing dramatically and very quickly in Prabhupada's presence because of how pure he was. So I think this is really significant, what Prabhupada is saying. You hold Krishna in your heart, and then wherever you go, Krishna is there, and just your presence on the planet is purifying millions and millions of people. And Prabhupada said it could purify the whole planet. Look what Prabhupada did. One person, Krishna consciousness is just, it's just like out of control now. Nobody can control it. It's just, for better or for worse, Prabhupada created like a tidal wave of Krishna consciousness. And you have all these people inspired to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, in ISKCON, outside of ISKCON, so many movements, even not even Gaudiya movements, Sri Sampradaya, and disciples of Neem Karoli Baba, and it's just like, there's so much inspiration. It's like, wow. One pure devotee had that much effect. And it only took him a few years to get the momentum. So that's amazing. So the message here, two messages: don't offend the devotee, because if you offend the devotee, you may lose your Shakti. And even though you try materially to be successful, you'll fail, as did Ravana. Another point is, we can't try only materially to be successful in spreading Krishna consciousness, because it doesn't happen that way. Yes, materially is the structure, but spiritual is the life. So unless we're pure, the material structure will not produce much. You know, one time Prabhupada said, if you don't preach after I go, there'll be no more Haribol, Haribol. It'll be finished. And I was thinking when he said that, I was thinking, well, will the buildings be there? But does Prabhupada mean the life, the essence is gone? And that's a likely scenario. Buildings, structures, externally, it looks like everything's there. Internally, substance is missing. That's possible. What is the substance? You and me, we're the substance. We are supposed to be what we're teaching people to be. Hello, does that make sense? We're supposed to be what we're teaching people to be, obviously, right? And if we are not what we're teaching people to be, then how can we teach people? Because they have to see it. When Prabhupada was here, everybody saw it. It was very clear. What is Krishna consciousness? Well, look at him. You see it, right? So now if we're teaching Krishna consciousness and people look at us and they go, there's something wrong with this picture. It's not going to work, right? It's not going to work. You're going to, wait a minute. You say this, but you do this. This doesn't work for me, right? And especially, I don't know if you know this, the older people, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the way the world is going now, this generation here, they don't tolerate this stuff. You know, they don't tolerate the paradoxes and the hypocrisy of politics and religion and so-called spirituality. They don't tolerate it. They don't buy it. They're raised in a different generation. If you look at society today, and you look at issues of equality, gender equality, wealth equality, genuine spirituality, you see, younger generation, they're in a different space. They're not tolerating our ethnic inequality, gender inequality. They're not tolerating this stuff. Spiritual hypocrisy, they're not tolerating the spiritual but not religious people. So, you know, if we are not what we're teaching people, they're going to look at us and go, no. And if we are not what we're teaching people, then we may only attract superficial people who think looking spiritual is more important than actually being it. So, important lesson. The other lesson, don't offend. Do not offend pure devotees. If you offend a pure devotee, it can destroy you. No matter how materially together you are, no matter how much material power you have, if you if you offend a pure devotee, you lose your opulence. You lose everything. We've seen it. And Ravana, he's the example. Materially, he's got it covered. He's got the advanced modern weapons. They're fighting with trees, mountains, and stones. And, of course, they have Lord Rama there. You know, slight advantage. Lord Rama and Lakshman. But still, they had these, Ravana had these amazingly qualified, capable fighters. Right? In the Leela, Indrajit, it apparently had killed Lakshman. So, and of course, it's Leela. But still, for the sake of instruction, then, we have this example. So, you know, we think, I need so many things to preach. Yes, you need so many things. But you can still be successful with your trees, mountains, and stones. Even you don't have your modern this or modern that. Yeah, employ the modern this or that. But if you have Krishna Shakti, somehow or other, it will happen. Krishna will make things happen. So we have 2 questions here. I'm going to go back. So this question came when I was talking about the chastity of woman, so it may relate to that. We see that sometimes devotees are also losing spiritual intelligence. They intellectually know what is right to do, but they do the opposite. Why are devotees losing spiritual intelligence? I noticed connection, connotation, I think you mean connection between losing intelligence and offending devotees. I'm not sure if my conclusions are right. the challenge, not only for devotees, but for human beings, is how do you go from understanding something to actually feeling it? Because unless you feel it, it's not real for you. Unless you feel, we act on our feelings, most of us, not on our intelligence. And so it's just like these people who study psychology deeply, and the what do you call motivational speakers or self-help gurus, who really, some of them have gone in depth in studying human psyche. And what they say is that you generally are not going to be inspired to do something because you know that it should be done. You're going to be inspired to do something, obviously, because you feel like doing it, and you're going to be inspired, or you're going to have the feeling to do it, because there are reasons to do it. There are whys, and it begins with the why. It doesn't begin with this is right as much as why it's right. Why should it be done? Okay, this is right. All right, it's right. Okay, great. Why is it right, and why should I do it? So you need reasons why. And the why is the emotion behind it. And when there's no emotion behind it, then it's like, I don't really want to do this. I'm not inspired. So that's one reason. That's the psychological component. The other component is, as I was saying yesterday, if you become weak spiritually, which all that really means is generally, I don't say all it really means is, but generally it's a combination of weak sadhana, which then causes you to become attached to material things, dayato visham ponsam. If you become attached, you're thinking about them, you're going to do them, so you can start engaging in sense gratification. Then what is sense gratification in Kali Yuga? Basically, it's sex. And so what goes when you become weak? Your japa, and what comes? Sex. Basically, that's what goes when you're strong. Sex. What comes when you're strong? Japa, hearing, sangha, relishing, ecstasy. So when we weaken in the sadhana, intelligence becomes weak, because the sadhana, Dadami Buddha Yogam Tam, Krishna is giving you intelligence. If you weaken your sadhana, your desires change. So Krishna now gives you intelligence according to your desires. If your desires become weak, spiritual desires become weak, material desires become strong, Krishna starts giving you intelligence and impetus for those material things, then your spiritual intelligence becomes clouded. And then it's extremely difficult. No devotee should ever allow themselves to go into that situation, because if your intelligence becomes weak, it doesn't mean that you don't know what's right. It just means you're not strong enough to act on it. And so it is said ignorance is bliss. But for us as devotees, we can't have ignorance because we know too much. So if we allow our intelligence to become weak, we still know what is right. It's just the mind is overcome. The mind has overcome us, so we're not acting properly. And so we suffer tremendously, because by doing what we know is wrong, because that's how we feel in the moment, because we're not spiritually inspired, because our sadhana is not good, or we're not getting good sangha, or we're not reading enough, our rounds have been bad. We suffer tremendously because we're doing something we know we shouldn't do, and we feel helplessly impelled to do it. So what's the solution? Good sadhana is the solution. It's like asking me, well, what if I'm not healthy, if I don't have a lot of energy, what should I do? And I say, exercise. The reason you're not healthy is because you don't exercise, and breathe, and drink water, and eat healthy food. Get rid of all this junk food, and get rid of all these junky thoughts. That's why you're sick. And so it's really simple. And so sadhana is like that. Sadhana is like the diet, the good water, you just do sadhana. You'll be fine. Your intelligence will be clear, because your desires will be for Krishna. Krishna will give you intelligence when you have desires to be Krishna conscious. Now, one of the things that Prabhupada stressed for us is to always be hearing and chanting, to always be talking about the philosophy, to always be discussing it. Because if you do that, your intelligence becomes very strong. very powerful. So even though the desire for sense gratification is there, the intelligence can override it. And then when you're discussing the philosophy, you're relishing Krishna consciousness, then you've got this real advantage to relish Krishna consciousness. This is the real advantage. I want to tell you something interesting. Thank you for bringing up this question. This is something interesting I've been meditating on. I have a godbrother that I like very much. He left ISKCON. He's with another Gaudiya organization, but he's very favorable to ISKCON, and he's quite an intellectual. And he was describing something. He said, Mahaprabhu says a moment in separation is like 12 years. And the gopis were separated from Krishna for 100 years. So one moment's like 12 years. So how intense was that pain? And then he was saying that this kind of pain and this kind of separation and these kind of feelings were unknown to the world. And this is what Mahaprabhu came. And so Radharani's separation hits the highest degree of Krishna consciousness. It's the highest ecstasy imaginable. And this is what Mahaprabhu came to give. He actually came to give and showcase Radharani's love in the most intense form in separation. That's what he came to showcase. It's such a high thing. You can't even conceive of the ecstasy. You can't conceive of the intensity of the emotion of separation that Radharani is feeling. Krishna left Vrindavan for 100 or 95 years or so. And he was saying that when you understand this and become absorbed in this, it just like destroys your material life. It just inspires you to enter Braj Leela and become part of that Leela, because it's so high, it's so deep, it's so full of rasa that it just destroys everything material. And I was thinking about that because, we say, well, you have to be careful when you hear about the gopis. So simultaneously, you have to be careful, but it's that hearing and understanding their mood, it's so high that it's Maya's light years away from Maya. So you have to hear that to get that high. You have to get that high to be Krishna conscious. You have to get way higher than Maya. And that is obviously as high as it goes. So the higher you can go in your discussions of Krishna Katha, Krishna Leela, then obviously the higher you are above Maya. So that hearing and chanting and trying to understand what is Braj Bhakti and Krishna Leela and the gopis' love and Yashoda's love and affection of the cowherd boys and all these things, and understanding it and churning it and looking at it from different points of view. That's what we're supposed to do. And if we do that, then as we said yesterday, the ecstasy comes. And when there's ecstasy, then you don't have any problem. So, really you could say the real problem in Krishna consciousness is the lack of ecstasy. Whenever there's a lack of ecstasy, problems increase. Whenever there's an increase in ecstasy, problems decrease. Isn't it? Isn't it a fact? Isn't that your experience? So really, think of your life as a nectar, as my godbrother Dravida says. Think of yourself as a nectar hound. You're always sniffing up, where's the nectar? Not just prasadam, but where's that nectar shloka? Going through the Bhagavatam, sniffing through, there's a shloka, listen to this. Oh, this is amazing. And you're reading it and you're getting realization, and you text your friend, I just read this shloka, it's amazing, this is my realization. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Churning the ocean, always experiencing something special. Krishna consciousness is so amazing, it's so special. The other day I was reading in the Dhruva story, it describes what Dhruva was seeing, the form of Vishnu he was seeing, and how beautiful that form was. And it was describing it very poetically. And I was just like reading this, thinking, I'd never met anyone so beautiful. It said Krishna was very peaceful. His smile was very charming. He was very satisfied. He was dressed in this way. His eyes were like this. And as I was reading this, I was thinking, there's nobody like this. No one exists like this. And I just wanted to write a song about it because it was such a beautiful description. And I was thinking, okay, here, look at this description of this person, and you can read People magazine, but you're not going to get any people like this. And you can write a beautiful song about the beautiful features and personality of Krishna and just, wow, or write a poem, like our godbrother Kalakanta, he likes to write poems. You write a poem, or you could sing a song. If you're a musician, you could write a song, take a verse and turn it into a song about the beauty of Krishna. So that's what we're supposed to be doing. And when you do that, then you're churning this ocean, and then everything is good. And yes. And when you're not churning the ocean and you're not experiencing the ecstasy, then you need those whys. You have to go back. Why am I a devotee? Why do I get up early? Why should I chant? Why do I read Bhagavatam? Why? You don't need the whys when you're relishing it. You need the whys when you're not relishing it. When you're relishing it, the relish is the impetus to keep going, right? That's why the stage of ruchi, Krishna consciousness, is so easy, because you always have taste. So, very, 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 very important. Going from the point we made yesterday, our job is to be relishing, to experience ecstasy. That's what we're doing. And then, when you have that ecstasy, what happens? It flows out of you. You give it to others, and people look at you and think, my God, you're like amazing. I never met anybody like you. You're so effulgent. What's going on? Because you're relishing Krishna consciousness, you're relishing chanting, you're relishing hearing. And then it just comes out of you. So preaching is really the relish of the devotees in their sangha overflowing out to people. That's what it is. I'm happy, I'm relishing, I'm satisfied, I'm ecstatic. Look at me. You can have this also. This is available in this mantra, in these books. But if you're not experiencing that, how can you give that to anybody? They'll look at you and go, oh, you don't look very happy. I don't want to be like you. You look kind of like a loser, So we know that loser devotee. You're not 1 foot in Maya, 1 foot in Krishna. You're not like really anywhere, and you're kind of like, I know I should do this, but I want to enjoy. And it's like, and how can you preach from that platform? People will look at you and think, oh my God, I'll end up like you. I'm not going to chant this mantra. I'll end up miserable like you. I'm doing better than you are right now. Ignorance is bliss. It's a fact. In their mind, they're doing better than us because ignorance is bliss. So once you remove the ignorance, then you realize how bad you're doing. You're like, oh. Unless you start churning the ocean of nectar, you're just going to feel bad because you're very clear about the nature of this world. Isn't it? Okay, we have some more questions. It's amazing how Ravana is teaching us so much. I wonder why some people are susceptible for pure devotee influence and some are not. Because not all people who went in contact with pure devotee become a devotee. Well, Prabhupada was asked this question. And his basic answer was that they're fortunate and intelligent. We can say pious people will feel the influence. The more people are engrossed in sinful activity, the more they're influenced by ignorance, the less they're going to be susceptible to the influence of an elevated devotee. The more they're sattvic, the more they're pious. Even some people are not so sattvic, but they're pious, they're religious. The more they will appreciate the pure devotee. So if someone has had past connection with bhakti, yes. If someone has proper samskars, yes. But some people have samskars which will not allow them to appreciate the pure devotee. It's just they're not yet ready for it in this life. A lot of atheistic people are not ready for it, or jnanis may not be fully ready for it. There may be different reasons. But I would say this, and Prabhupada had said most people are innocent. And so most of the world, if they're presented with an alternative, they're presented with a pure devotee and his teachings, and if those teachings are given to them intelligently and sensitively by someone who's very pure, most people will appreciate it. and we're seeing that in the world today. The way the world is going, many people are just freaking out. They go, we can't continue like this. There's too much corruption. There are too many bad people. There's too many poor people. There's too many hungry people. There's too many wealthy people. And there's too much pollution and environmental damage. And there's too many hypocritical spiritual people. Something has to change. So if you and I become the real thing, believe me, there's plenty of people who will see it, who will notice it. Now, will they become devotees? Not necessarily. But will they appreciate us? Yes. And that appreciation is devotional service. Will that appreciation lead to something more? Yes, in this life or another life. So all we can do is be the best and do our best. And then Krishna, in my experience, Krishna will send people to us who are ready. I find this all the time. As I become more capable of helping people, Krishna sends more people to me to help. So you just meditate on how to become capable of helping people, and I guarantee you, Krishna will send you people to help. Actually, Krishna has many people to send to us to help that he hasn't sent yet because we're not able to help them. And he's waiting for us to be able to help them, either us individually, or we don't have centers, we don't have an infrastructure. And so Krishna's saying, okay, to these people from the heart, okay, read Prabhupada's books, this and that. Don't get too close to the devotees yet, because there aren't any devotees who really understand you, who can engage you. Or the devotees now in this particular area will probably blow you away if you went there. We see that, and I'm just being honest. But as you become more capable of dealing with people, or within your area, setting up some kind of structure, programs where people can come where they are at and relate to us, then Krishna's going to send more people. It always happens that way. So you have to see preaching also in terms of infrastructure. You as an individual and your personal purity infrastructure, and then the infrastructure you create that enables people to come in an environment in which they won't be judged and they won't be unnecessarily pushed to do things that they're unable to do at the present moment. And they'll be encouraged and inspired wherever they're at to engage their talents in Krishna service. Then Krishna will go, okay, you're ready. Let's just open the floodgates and you're going to be a successful preacher. That's what he's going to do. So don't think of preaching just as material. You have to think of it on two levels, your purity and then the facility you create. Okay. How nice comment. Strengthen the heart's desire to desire the right thing. Yes. Yes, nectar hounds. But it is not that looking for ecstasy is kind of wanting to enjoy KC, and then we are forgetting about pleasing Krishna and we want to please ourselves. Where is the balance? Ecstasy is not sense gratification. That's the main. You see, anytime you're talking about selfishness, and then you're talking about something that looks selfishness, like looking for ecstasy and churning the ecstasy, how do you distinguish that? Okay, what's the distinguishing line? What side is selfishness and what side is not selfishness in Krishna consciousness? Even though we're saying, be a nectar hound, look for the ecstasy, churn the ocean. It's just sense gratification. That's all. Yes, if I am, okay, let's say I'm studying Shastra, and we've seen devotees have studied Shastra to exhibit learning above others in order to inflate their ego. So that's sense gratification. So you're studying Shastra not to relish Krishna consciousness, not to become a pure devotee, not to share it, but to inflate your ego. Okay. Or I'm studying Shastra for some kind of mental stimulation, because the mind is a sense. Krishna said it's the sixth sense. So just mental stimulation to gather knowledge, which is very stimulating and interesting, and I'm reading about the fifth canto and speculating this, and I love to speculate. I'm not reading with the concept that I will become more purified or more detached, but I'm reading as an intellectual stimulant exercise. Okay, that's better than reading some mundane book. But there is an element of sense gratification there, that I will enjoy this. Now, you can use the word enjoy spiritually. How will I will enjoy reading Srimad Bhagavatam. What will that enjoyment look like? It'll come out in the fact that I'm relishing hearing about Krishna. Relishing hearing about Krishna has nothing to do with material enjoyment. In fact, relishing hearing about Krishna destroys the desire for material enjoyment. It's right there in the Bhagavatam. Hriyantasta abhadrani vidunoti sritsatam. By hearing Bhagavatam, your heart becomes purified of all the impure things. And in the second verse of Bhagavatam, second or third verse, it says, this book is for rasikas. It's for people who relish. And so, please relish this. I want you to relish this. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to relish it. And relishing it is service. When you relish Krishna, when you talk about Krishna, glorify Krishna, and are happy doing that, Krishna's happy. That's your service. If you're happy hearing about Krishna, you become purified. But if you approach it, okay, I want to do this because this is going to make me happy, yeah, then that borders on sense gratification. You're going, I'm going to chant because I'll feel good. No, you're going to chant to become a pure devotee. But if you're just chanting to feel good, okay, that's a very neophyte stage. That can border on sense gratification, because sense gratification is about feeling good. And we know many people who are new to spirituality, they want to do things to feel good. That's probably why we became devotees. But very shortly we understand, no, everything is for Krishna's pleasure. So if I'm doing some seva for my sense gratification, yeah, it's personal. But why am I relishing Bhagavatam? Why am I trying to get the ecstasy? Because if I get that ecstasy, that brings me closer to Krishna. If I get that ecstasy, I can better spread Krishna consciousness. If I get that ecstasy, I rise above Maya. Then I have more power to serve Krishna. So the words like enjoy, the words like relish, the words like taste, they're all part of the Bhagavatam vocabulary. But they're all devoid of the desire for sense gratification. So the simple solution is become free of the desire for sense gratification, and then you can enjoy Krishna consciousness. I said in a class maybe a few months ago, I said that many times Prabhupada used the word enjoy. He talked about, I hope you enjoyed the festival. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy Mayapur. So what did Prabhupada mean? Transcendentally enjoy with transcendental purified senses. Yes, I'm enjoying chanting. You cannot enjoy chanting with material senses. I'm enjoying seeing the deity. You cannot enjoy seeing the deity unless you have purified senses. I'm enjoying hearing this class. You cannot enjoy hearing the class unless you have purified senses. If your idea of enjoying is sense gratification, then it doesn't work. You can't understand the transcendental, and thus you can't relish it if you're approaching it from the point of sense gratification. So the word enjoy, relish, and so forth, it doesn't apply if you're approaching Krishna consciousness from a point of view of sense gratification. So you should relish kirtan, not out of false ego, not to show off, but simply to become a pure devotee. You should relish hearing Bhagavatam, not to show off your learning, but simply to become a pure devotee. You should relish the Sangha of devotees, not to show off that you're a better devotee, but to churn the ocean of Krishna consciousness so that you can go more deeply and you can become a better devotee and you become a better servant of Guru and Krishna. That's it. And if that's it, then yeah. Relish. Talk about Krishna. Go more deeply into Krishna. Just keep diving deeper. Keep relishing. And the more you relish, you know what happens? The more the desire for sense gratification is diminished. So it's all how we approach it. Okay. Let's continue class tomorrow because I have more things to talk about Lord Rama, and we've gone over time. I've already gone an hour. And it's morning for me, and it's actually my breakfast time. So, unless someone is dying to ask another question. Oh, we have another one, I forgot. Sadhyarupa says, I see ecstasy as Krishna is happy, hence we are also happy, yes. So like if I'm not getting, if I'm not getting a taste in japa, then Krishna's not happy. And my japa, if I'm happy, means actually Krishna's happy. Generally, yes, but sometimes Krishna may not give you a taste in japa because Krishna wants to see what you're going to do when you don't have a taste. You're going to give up, make a sour face, say, I don't like this. We were doing in the japa workshop, we were doing little skits, and I think I'll do some videos. This is how the skit goes. It's really funny. You talk to your japa bead. Okay, you're having a conversation with your japa bag. And you go, you're boring today. You're like putting me to sleep. You know, I don't want to hang out with you. This is not fun at all. I mean, you're not fun. Not at all. You're not fun. And what does your japa beads say? Well, one thing your japa beads might say, well, I'm just testing you. I want to see when I don't give you a taste, what are you going to do? Are you just going to give up? Or are you going to do this out of duty, out of dedication and devotion, that even there's no taste, you're going to chant? Well, we have to have another voice for this video, right? And he talks like this. We have to have the japa bag just sitting there without my hand, and I'm having the conversation in two different voices. And then I'll say, oh, I never thought of that. So even when I'm not enjoying it, you want me to appreciate what I have and just chant anyway with the devotion I have. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's my test. And when you pass the test, then I give you the taste. Is that okay? Okay, it's okay. Something like that. So, does that make sense? So we'll start a new series of videos called Talks with My Japa Bag. It'll be quite interesting. I'll have to get a video editor who can figure it out, and then we'll do it. Okay? So we'll see you. Let's do it tomorrow. Guru Nishta, can you send out a message? We'll do tomorrow until we finish everything. We'll just keep going, meditating on Lord Rama. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi.